Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and maybe good midnight everywhere in the world. Today is the 30th of October, and in Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia is 9:33 in the morning. And we want to thank our 4 and 5 colleagues from Argentina because of the time they are going to share with us this morning. First of all, let me share my screen with all of you. Give me a few seconds. It takes a few seconds. Okay, so today is our 88th, unbelievable, incredible, 88th International English Online Meeting. Who is presenting soon? A good friend of all of us, great human being, an incredible professional, Monica Rodriguez. She will be talking to us on Sunday, November the 6th. She will be talking about educational coaching, humanizing approach to ELT. Also, we will have this wonderful roundtable. It's a way to say thank you to all the guest speakers from all over the world, 91st International English Online Meeting, expressing our gratitude. Everyone will have the chance to express his or her gratitude for these 2 years and a half of very difficult times after the pandemic. And also the last one, I guess, this year will be encouraging professional development in Latin America with 6 professionals who represent 6 different English teachers associations in our continents. Okay, if you want to contact me because you would like to present or talk about any project, this is my WhatsApp number. Call me, write to me, and we will get in contact. If you want to watch all the past meetings, you can find them in our YouTube channel. Okay, so who is presenting today? 5 wonderful, good new friends. Let me first start with Eugenia Carrion. Eugenia Carrion is a qualified EFL educator with a licenciatura diploma in English literature from Universidad Nacional de Córdoba, a postgraduate diploma in educational management from FLA CSO, and she's currently attending MA in education at Universidad Nacional de Quilmes. She has taught extensively in the field of EFL, cultural studies, and critical citizenship at different levels. She has also presented locally and internationally and published in international journals. She's a former vice chancellor at Paulo Freire Teacher Training College and a curriculum developer for primary, secondary, and teacher education in Tierra del Fuego. Presently, she is Argentinian Federation of Teachers of English Association President, AMPAS, and UNTDF lecturer, and she is in charge of professional development at TDF ELAS Ministry of Education. So thank you so much, dear Eugenia. Next, we have our good friend Marina Surace. Is that the way you pronounce Surace?
Yes, well, it's an Italian name, so it should be Surace, but it's Surace.
Come andiamo alla sua casa? Marina Surace is an English teacher graduated from ISPA Joaquin V. González. She also holds a bachelor degree in English from Universidad Tecnológica Nacional. She has been teaching English and ESP for 19 years in secondary schools, teacher training colleges, and state-run universities. She has also been in charge of coordinating the English department at different schools. She's currently teaching prácticas discursivas, lectura y escritura at Universidad Nacional de José C. Paz, AMPAS, and Global Perspective at St. Paul's College. She lives in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Thank you, my dear Marina. The only one man in this group of Argentinian groups, teachers, our good friend Claudio Huin. Huin or Juin?
Well, actually it's Juin because it's French.
Excusez-moi. Claudio is an Argentinian teacher specialized in primary, secondary, and university level settings. He has been teaching English for 25 years. He's a former school headmaster. At present, he's the general coordinator at Centro de Idiomas UNPAS, leading 30 teachers and more than 1,300 students of various languages. In terms of research, he is in charge of leading a project related to teaching English to social institutions as part of the university community. Additionally, he's taking the lead in organizing conversation clubs with different Latin American universities. Please contact me about that. Not only in English, but also in other languages. He's an actor with a major in musical theater as well. Thank you, Claudio. Then Maria del Valle Juri or Yuri?
Juri.
Juri, okay, Maria del Valle Juri is a teacher of English. She has a licenciado diploma in English teaching from CAECE University, a postgraduate diploma in schools management from Morón University. She has taught in Buenos Aires, state-run schools at primary and secondary level for 25 years. She has been a headmistress, vice headmistress, and a secretary at secondary schools. Presently, she is a secretary of the Jefatura Regional, Región 9, in the north area of Buenos Aires, a teacher of English at secondary schools for adult people and at University of Jose Sipas. And finally, and last but not the least, our great friend, Marina Gonzalez. Are you present, Marina Gonzalez?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry for the
Hello,
delay.
dear Marina, nice to see you.
Anyway, the great thing is that all my partners are here, and that's important point.
And also you, my dear Marina.
Thank
Marina
you,
Gonzalez is an EFL teacher and program administrator specialized in university settings based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She coordinates the language program at Universidad Nacional de JC Paz, UNPAS, and one of the youngest state universities in the provincial city of Buenos Aires. Her main concern is the development of the EFL area in Latin America, particularly in adult populations in state programs. She has designed and run various languages programs at different universities, taught ELT management and material design for a decade, and now she focuses on the design and growth of new spaces in EFL. Well, dear friends, as you can see, we have very professional people, friends, and colleagues from Argentina. So to start with our round table, the first question for you five is, let me see, how would you describe the reality of the teaching learning process in Argentina at all levels, schools, institutes, and universities? So who wants to start today?
I can do it.
Well, okay.
Okay, thank you, dear Eugenia.
Okay, just to give the kickoff. Well, good
Of
morning,
course,
and
of course.
thank you, Jaime and Marina, for this invitation. It's a real pleasure to be in this roundtable and to share with you some visions related to the situation in this part of the world in Argentina. When I was reading the question about how would you describe the reality of teaching and learning process in Argentina, I would say the first word that comes to my mind is diverse. Yes, considering, as you mentioned, all levels, there are different situations related to the regions, in the different regions in Argentina. In the north and in the south, situations are might be quite similar in terms of initial education, north and west and east as well. But when it comes to primary and secondary school, situations are quite different from one region to another. So just to focus maybe in terms of initial education, mainly the institutions or the way in which institutions work together, either universities or teaching training college, to form teachers of English as a foreign language in our country, are undergoing, let's say, a moment of transformation, I would say, in the last 20 years, moving little by little from the specification in the development only on the linguistic area into let's say, the change moving towards the pedagogics and applied linguistics specifically. So there is a change of approach there that is very slow, and that in terms of development, teaching training colleges are, I would say, ahead in the development towards universities. That would be in terms of initial education. And in terms of obligatory education of primary and secondary school, specifically primary school, depending on the regions in Argentina, English is, let's say, compulsory in primary schools, in primary state schools, I would say, right? Considering the whole system of education. Generally speaking, from third or fourth year onwards, not in all of the regions, this is not this way. In some regions, English is implemented from first year, but not, that is something that is not even, right, in the whole country, I would say. That would be my contributions, and I leave the rest to my colleagues.
Thank you so much, dear Eugenia. Next one, who wants to be the next one in the group? Maria, Yuri?
Yes. Well, I'm going to talk about the reality of the Buenos Aires schools, state-run schools. As Eugenia has just said, teaching English is compulsory, or English as a subject is compulsory from the 4th year of primary school up to the 6th year in secondary schools. And at the end of students' trajectory, it seems that students have not reached or achieved the expected level. Yeah. Indeed, English is one of the subjects students fail most. First, you have mathematics, then Spanish, and the third one is English. So we have a lot of work to do about that.
Okay, thank you. Who's the next one?
Well, I can add something to what Eugenia and Maria are saying. Yes, I agree, of course, because English is mandatory in certain levels in primary school, no matter if it's private or state. In private institutions, children have English lessons from kindergarten, but not all of them. And I think that kind of 20 or 25 years ago, there were not many teachers of English, and there was a change in Ley Nacional de Educación when this idea of English being compulsory, the fact was that there were not teachers of English, graduate teachers. So sometimes, and it still happens, or that is my sensation, whenever a student, a child, or a teenager, or even parents think of English, they believe that English is taught in a traditional way, because a long time ago, when I was a little kid, maybe it was more grammar based, and nowadays English should be taught in a natural way because it's part any subject, no matter if we're talking about math, language, natural sciences, or social sciences, which are the subjects, let's say, because those are the four most required subjects that students in primary school should know in order to continue other levels. And sometimes educators don't see that English goes like a kind of transversal, yes, and you can teach it as natural as possible. So still nowadays, when you teach English, we have this kind of phantoms or these things that little by little, we that are teachers in different levels, maybe I am part of Profesorado Universitario de Inglés as a teacher, we are trying to make that difference to future students of English.
All right, thank you, Claudio. And the next one is Marina.
Yes, me. Hello. Well, what I've seen during these last years, and this comes mostly from observing primary and secondary school teachers, is that many teachers are still stuck to the book. You know, it's as if they still needed to have a course book that will tell them what to do, what not to do, and that will guide their teaching practices. And of course, this comes hand in hand with what Claudio said. English should be, or maybe this is also related to question number 2, but I think it's also a challenge that we should try to guide ourselves, or to go towards teaching English in a more natural way, to focus in how it's actually used and what we can do because English is very accessible nowadays through films, YouTube, videos, Netflix, whatever platform there is at hand. So I think books, you know, we should focus on leaving books behind and qualifying teachers on trying to be more spontaneous and planning lessons more according to the actual use of the language.
All right, thank you, Marina. And finally,
Perfect.
Marina Gonzalez.
I'm already there, just waiting for. No, I just love this possibility of listening to my dear friends and just taking down notes. The only thing I would like to do is like summarize, because I think that in this very first question, a number of tensions have already appeared, and that basically support what Eugenia was saying about the variety. Argentina is it's a large country, and realities are so varied that I also appreciate the fact that we have some friends from Argentina from different situations, or also in this Zoom. But I think that a couple of things that were interesting, all of them are interesting, but they represent the typical tensions that we have. Basically, the tensions between private and state, because in Argentina, state education is very strong. And this is something I want to state, because reality of universities, mostly in some of the countries of Latin America that we know or that we share here in the meeting, are different. I mean, in Argentina, even the other point is that we do have within higher education like two coexisting traditions, which is the one of formación docente terciaria, formación terciaria, and universidades, okay? And they work together. From what I have seen, mostly in some of your countries, Jamito, and you and all of you, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's mostly universities. Okay, this idea of terciario, de educación terciaria is not so clear. And it's part of a tradition in Argentina in terms of teachers being taught mostly, at least in the area surrounding Buenos Aires, but in all of the country, like there was a tension between universities and the training of teachers, right? So this is something that is quite particular for Argentina, and I love that this has already come into play. Then the role of pedagogy. There has been a very, very important change mostly in teacher training, which is not reflected in the teachers that are at school, because they were trained before. So they were trained mostly in the pure applied linguistics model. And now there is a tension with pedagogy. And I'm just pointing this out because these are going to come back and again throughout our talk, okay? And also the point of reliance on books, okay? There are probably both, well, this is the reason why Marina teaches prácticas discursivas, all right, and not language. And this is something probably Eugenia is going to bring back with some of the projects back in Tierra del Fuego. So this is basically what I wanted to share in this moment. And if you all agree, it's like I would love to listen to my mates and then make some associations if you find it useful.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for you five. Did I hear that English is compulsory in primary school? Wow,
Yes.
that's in
Yes.
public schools.
In public schools.
Yes.
Wow, that's great, because here in Peru, it's compulsory in secondary school. So
That's right.
everybody knows that we should start studying English or any other language as soon as possible. So that is great. I don't know. Yeah, somebody has a question here in the chat. How is English assessed in schools? Is there a national test or an international standardized test, like for example, Cambridge or IELTS? Yeah, Marina.
Maybe we can reach that a bit later, but
All right.
But anyway, in terms of, we don't have yet, we all know that PISA 2025 is coming, don't we? All right. And this is very important because it's going, even though PISA, for foreign languages is going to be not mandatory within the suite of tools, PISA is an instrument that should inform language policies. And instead of that, it's generally read or spread, communicated as a result or a value in itself, without and thus complaining about the state of education, which is something that is common, at least in this country, particularly constantly. So this is something for us to know. What we do know, and I can tell you because it's a publication back from 2015 of some of the people who were working in CAESE, is that we do have a very strong knowledge or conscience of the impact of the Cambridge suite of exams in the teaching of English in Argentina. And that is basically the Cambridge set of exams is the hidden curriculum. Okay. Now, assessment, testing in particular in schools implies a variety of settings and a variety of policies and implementation. So I think that maybe we can cover that more in detail later on, if you agree.
Okay, thank you very much, Marina. Now let's go to the second question. And just a reminder, after the second question, the people who are here with us will have the chance of making questions or making a comment. The second question is, what are the principal challenges of the teachers to become professionals in Argentina? What a question. So, who wants to start this time?
Okay, I can.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, of course, thanks to you. I think that any person who would like to study to be a teacher of English should take into account that it's not only a question of learning about the language, yes, about the skills of the language, but also taking into consideration that he or she will be a professional. He or she will be dealing with students, and there are other things there like values, responsibilities. Um, we are preparing students to be citizens in a society. So I think that because sometimes I would like to be a teacher, and they are so focused on the command of the language. Yes, and we do not have to forget that we are dealing with human beings. Okay,
Right.
so I think that that is maybe one of the things that I can say.
I agree with you, dear Claudio. Next, Marina Surace.
Well, I agree with Claudio too. Sometimes they focus on command too much, and I think becoming a teacher is more connected. First, is more connected to education than to English. So you need to feel that urge to be an educator first, and then of course you just choose the language or the means, which in our case is English. And then another challenge I see is that we still have entrance exams at some teacher training colleges. So this is very much connected to what Eugenia said at the beginning, that she's focused on the democratization of languages and English in the region. And that should be a goal, so that entrance exams stop existing, and more people have access to languages, because English has always been, I don't know if it's a strong word, but to say elitist. So you need to be able to afford studying English. So, well, while working at UNPAS and UNAUR, which is another university in the region, English has been more accessible to more people, and that I think is a great achievement of the region, at least in Buenos Aires. And another perspective is which also was connected to the question before, it's the that Cambridge exams are really present as a hidden curriculum. So sometimes students just focus on that, and we should aim at trying to avoid at some point exams and Cambridge exams, and to learn the language, not just to learn to pass exams and to be trained to pass exams, Okay, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Marina. Back to you, Maria del Valle.
Yes, Claudio mentioned that we are lacking teachers of English. We need graduate teachers of English. And sometimes I hear my students saying that they would like to become a teacher of English because they are sure they are going to have a job. Yes. And that's one of our challenges. As my colleagues have said, it's not just a job. To be a teacher, not of English, to be a teacher, you have to have a lot of things into account, not only the management of a language or some subjects. You have to have values, you have to understand the students you are teaching to, especially in some not privileged regions.
Right.
So that's one of the things we teachers have to take into account and think about, right?
Yeah, thank you, dear Maria del Valle. Eugenia Carrión, back to you.
Okay, well, I would like to just to go on with the line of thought that Marina mentioned in terms of considering, just to add to what has been said, there are many challenges that are initial teacher education in Argentina we still need to consider. And for me, something that is very important is that for students and teachers to be, I would say, it is very important that they understand that becoming a teacher of English is not more important than becoming a teacher of math or becoming a teacher of biology or becoming a teacher of history. That is something that should be clear from the very beginning in terms of entrance and institutions, and also for the teachers at universities, the lecturers and the teachers at universities and teacher training colleges, focusing, as I mentioned in the previous question, that, I mean, the approach should be on teaching more than what is it that is being taught. That does not mean that we are not paying attention in initial education towards the skills and the development of skills in English. That is very important, but that is not let's say, the only focus in the development of the teaching program. That would be like in terms of institutions. And that's why when we mentioned in the first question that there are like different trajectories in these ideas in terms of initial education in teaching training colleges and in the universities. Still, universities go a little bit backward, right? In my opinion, towards that. Of course, there are some exceptions. I wouldn't say many, some exceptions, like the new universities like UNPAS, UNAUR, many others that are like the universities of the new century, I would say, in Argentina. But the Oxford brick, I would say, from Argentina are UBA, Córdoba, and the rest, well, still need to learn the lesson, I would say. In terms of considering, let's say, other aspects for me, the challenge is whether we are, teachers at the initial education, lecturers at university, in-service teachers, well, all of us, I would say, we need still, in my opinion, to work in articulation between levels, considering primary and secondary school and initial education at university of teaching training colleges, any of them, considering that, working as a system and providing instances of working collaboratively there. And also, I think that, as Claudio mentioned in question number 1, to reinforce the development of cross-curricular work in any level we teach English. Institutionally speaking, not only with the desire and the passion that each teacher puts in his or her lessons towards, in the relationship with other teachers at school, but being all educators, it's very important that we strengthen, I would say, this need of working cross-curricular. Well, I think that I can add that.
Yeah, thank you so much, dear Eugenia. And finally, Marina Gonzalez.
Yes, Jaime, thanks. I just love the things that they have been saying. I would like to focus a bit more technically within the process of becoming a teacher, all right? Because most of the things that have been mentioned are general, and they are related to how the English teacher is supposed to work professionally in the field, right? Besides the fact that we are acknowledging the fact that Cambridge exams are a concept, a hidden curriculum, that becoming a teacher is more important than the content in particular that you are that you're covering. But becoming a teacher, I think it's something that Claudio mentioned, implies this idea of being. And this idea of being implies a transformation throughout your course of studies. Is not acquiring, but it's rethinking and reshaping and hopefully becoming another self, right? A different self, a self that has undergone the miracle of education. And I think that this is the biggest challenge that any study in education poses, right? Because as an engineer, you do not turn into an engineer, but when you become a teacher, you become a teacher. It must have happened to you. And another thing is that in Argentina, this is quite marked by the fact that we have a lot of public education that includes the language, right? So then that shows that you are part of the school. And when you're part of a school, it's this thing that you meet your students 2 blocks away from, probably 2 blocks away from school. So if they are misbehaving, you start telling them how they should act or what they should not do. If you find them at the shop, you make sure that they are buying properly or they are treating people well, or you travel with them on the bus and you check whether the bus driver treats them well or not. So, I mean, this becoming, when your role in mandatory education is set, really becomes of importance. And then it's a very difficult challenge, because it is something that you need to know. If you also only specialize on structures, on language flow, and not on the educational dimension of your work, then, and this is something that is very well known almost everywhere, that teachers become teachers, they go to work and they leave the profession. I mean, the highest rate is in the first 5 years, okay? And the other technical consideration that we consider to be crucial is the fact that despite what Valle mentions about this thing of, well, work, I mean, for 2 or 3 generations more, we could say that there is going to be work, okay? And the bigger problem is that they find work before they finish their studies. So the challenge that teacher education programs are having nowadays is that students start working before they have graduated, and many of them don't finish their studies.
Right.
I think that this is one of the important challenges to bear in mind as regards, well, becoming professionals, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, dear Claudio, Marina, Maria del Valle, Eugenia, and Marina Gonzalez, for the answers to these first 2 questions. So now it's time for the people who are with us here, Raj, Roxy, Ron, Arturo, Rina, Maria, Marta, David Talavera, Marco Antonio, Fillmore, Anabela, Maria Lourdes, Julissa, Maria Teresa, Micaela, and our good friend Isabel Tapja in Peru. So if you have a question or a comment to make, this is the time. This is the moment. Anybody? Yeah, go on, Ron.
Well, you know, I came today because I was very curious as to what's going on in different countries. I live in Germany, but I'm an American. I've lived in Europe for most of my life and was educated in France and in Switzerland, but, you know, also in England. You know, some of the things that I've heard here, I don't think there's really too much of a difference than what happens to teachers here in Germany or Europe. I think that's pretty much, you know, the same. I think Marina mentioned something about teachers leaving the profession, you know, in the, you know, these years, in like 5 years, but that's also true in Germany. But I wanted to ask some questions here to the people sitting on the panel today. I think Eugenia mentioned something about, you know, teachers being, you know, knowing other subjects, but, you know, I never heard certain words, I think, that we as teachers know what they are. One of them was interdisciplinary approaches to teaching English. I think that's extremely important. So how do you feel about that? But then getting teachers to that point, which of course would move us to what methodologies are teachers using in Argentina? Is it CLIL? Is it TBL? Is it PBL? Because you talked about course-driven, the need for course-driven teaching. That's a methodology as well. Exam-oriented teaching, that's a methodology. And of course we have that problem in Germany, that non-natives want to use a course book because they don't really know how to put a course together, which leads us to my last comment. What's happening in Argentina to educate teachers, CPD, helping them to, become professionals? I wasn't born a teacher. I learned how to be a teacher at university, but that was only the theoretical part. What about the practical part? And how long does that take? I know I could say for me, before I felt comfortable in the classroom, about 5 years. And that was a long process of CPD. So what's going on with CPD?
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Ron. And I would like you to be a guest speaker next year, please.
Yeah. Hi, Ron. We've met in IATEFL. We know each other from IATEFL.
Well, I've met a lot of the teachers around the world. I usually would go to all the conferences. I, got a hold of this one because Jaime posted something on my webinar site. So, I'm pretty involved in education around the world.
Thank you, dear Ron. Okay. Thank you so much. So, Marina, you were saying.
Yep. I was just saying hello to Ron because we share IATEFL. I mean, a number of things there. Just a couple of things, and I know that Eugenia will be able to, and all my mates will be able to develop. But something that is very important to us is that to become a teacher in Argentina, you need to study 5 years. And this is a word of difference from the CELTA, Delta courses that you find. Another thing that I want to make sure, to make a point of is that remember that the person who coined the concept of 10 solars, which is teachers of English, native speakers of other languages, is our very own Silvana Richardson. So we are quite past and quite challenging. We challenge the concept of native speakers. We are very much within the decolonialization of English. And that, why am I saying this? Because we don't have native speakers. I mean, we did have in the 80s a lot of what we call the backpackers, all right, who were either American, and maybe they do still go. I mean, our country is so chaotic. We convince them not of coming. I mean, they cannot survive here. They cannot accept the mayhem in which we live. So we don't have so many people who speak English and come and teach, and then to make sure that they can make a living, they take a CELTA or a Delta. So for us, what you mentioned as part of CPD is most of the times a great part of teacher education. It's while they are learning to become this future professional. So this is one of the most important things that I wanted to mention, because the CPD, and of course, then everything is going to be different depending on the place. I mean, you kind of work, whether you work in state-run education, in primary or secondary, or, I mean, the biggest amount of teachers who work within the state-run system, okay? But in parallel to this, many of them also work in private organizations, private institutions, and then when you go to private language schools, the focus, I mean, there is not much room for interdisciplinarity, because the focus and the objective and the purpose of the organization is to teach English. So that's why you are going to get a variety of answers to your question in terms of the methodology used. Also because it is also related to how deep or how effective tensions in methodology have. I mean, I personally strict in terms of the concept of methods. I think that to me there are 2 points, which is PPP and TBL, and then the others are variations of the two models. So I mean, I know that I love your mind maps, Ron, in terms of and TBL, and I've been into TBL for a number of times. If I have to tell you whether we teach TBL, I wouldn't be able to say to answer affirmatively, and it's a pity to me, but it's not happening. The closest that maybe is happening is a bit of CLIL in some context, but not too many. And I'm shutting up for the moment. So I'm giving
Thank you
time
so
for
much,
anybody
dear
else.
Marina. Back to Isabel Tapja in Peru. Your question, please, Isabel.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you. I was listening to this fantastic conversation from the Facebook Live. So it was so interesting that I wanted to share a few thoughts. So
Please.
my first thought is that, and probably this is a personal view. I think we teachers do not teach English. We teach communication, and communication is not a subject per se. It's a practice. No, it's like when you learn karate. It's not that you will give the student some instructions and that's it. It's a practice. It's something that you do and you improve. As the more you do, the more you get better. So because of that, I think teachers, we are not only professionals, but we are also artists. It's an art. Teaching it's a vocation. It's not something that you learn how to do, no? And this is very personal. And because of this communication perspective that I have, and it's from really, it's like teaching Spanish. When you teach the subject Castellano or lengua, I don't know what's the name in Argentina. I'm pretty sure that we teach communication, and it should be the same in English. The only thing that is changing here is the code. Instead of using Spanish, we're using English, but it should be communication really. And their exams are not a sin. They are a sin if we only do practice tests and practice tests and practice tests and practice tests, and then we are not developing communication skills. But if we use an exam as a goal at the end, and we understand that in that exam there are some goals related to communicational skills, then we will see how using an exam as a goal, as the purpose of our teaching is not that bad. Bueno, it's what I've done, and it has been successful for my students, no?
Thank you, dear Isabel. Thank you. It's nice to have you back with us. And finally, we have time for somebody else to ask a question or make a comment, and then back to you, Ron. Anybody else, please, briefly, because we need to go on with the question 3 and 4. Arturo.
Yes,
Phil,
Jaime. Yes, I
Peru.
would just like to say hello to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon in some cases. Hi, Marina. Yes, these are very interesting meetings that we have every Sunday, Jaime. And it's very interesting to see that we share common problems. And just to comment, Jaime, remember some years ago, our teaching of English starts in secondary, as you said. But then they started with a project at Humala's time, a former president, in which they would start at primary. But what was the problem? We didn't have the teachers to teach at the primary level. Okay, we had teachers, but teachers who didn't speak English. And that was one of the things that stopped the project at that time. Another thing which is interesting, I don't know if I understood well what Eugenia said, but I think that if you want to become a teacher, first, okay, it's a passion. It's a passion for teaching, what Marina said. I agree with that. But I believe that in 4 years or 5 years that it takes to be a teacher in Peru too, we don't have enough time if you start from zero to learn the language. I think that if you want to become an English teacher or a teacher of English, which is the correct way to say it, I think that you should already come with the command of the language. And that's something that should be measured. Maybe Marina doesn't really agree with me. I understand it, but it's okay. It's a view. But I think that we should, because English is not only the language, it's also culture. Okay. And that is not learned in 5 years. I have seen teachers who go through the process of 4 and 5 years, and at the end they are not ready. They're excellent teachers, yes, but do they have the command of English necessary to be a model in the classroom for the student? That's the only thing I would. Okay, it's like you want to teach math, and the best math teachers in our country, unfortunately, sometimes are engineers, are economists, are people who take 2 more years as a complementary study, a master degree, and then they start teaching in schools. Okay, so that's something to give it a second thought, maybe. I don't disagree with what you say at all. It happens all around South America and around the world, as Ron said. But yeah, that's my point of view, Jaime. I don't want to.
Okay, thank you. If anybody has any other comment, please keep it for the next round. So let's go to the question number 3. Where can you become a licenciado, not a master, not a PhD, in lengua inglesa in Argentina? And what are the requirements to graduate? I don't know who is going to start with the answer for this question.
I've started talking a lot. Everybody has to stop me. But be careful. No, but I do need to make regional clarifications. All right. Our degree is teacher. Okay. Our degree is profesorado. Licenciado is a postgraduate degree.
Okay.
That's something. Okay. That's so.
Anybody. Okay. I will add my question later. Okay. Anybody else, please, who wants to explain to us?
Yes, me.
Thank you.
Well, in Argentina, in order to become a licenciado, or what we can call to have a BA in English, you need to go to a university. That could be a state-run university or a private university. But in any case, it's generally a 1.5 years or a 2-year course. And generally you have to pay for it. They are private courses. And one of the main requirements is that at the end of the course, you write a thesis or a dissertation. That's key to graduating in most of the universities here in Argentina, like UTN, UNSAM, or Belgrano, USAL. Well, I might be missing some.
And do you need to take a FCE, CAE, TOEFL exam or whatever?
No, you don't.
No, you need to be a teacher.
Yeah.
You need to be a teacher of English.
Right.
Okay,
because
Claudio.
this question, I'm just adding something else, because this regional thing that Marina Gonzalez wanted to say is that as we are teachers from terciario, so in order to be a licenciado, it's a further level. So you need it from a university. But you do have to. It takes, as Marina Suras said, maybe 2 years and a half. But you do need to be a teacher, a graduate teacher from terciario.
All right.
Jaime, Jaime, maybe something like pedagógicos, no? And then going to, if you wanna, then you go to university to get your degree, no? Here.
Yeah, maybe. Right.
Yeah, maybe something similar to that here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next,
Something
Maria.
to add.
Eugenia.
Yeah, I would like to add something
Please
to
do, please do.
what Marina and Claudio mentioned in terms of, I mean, the code or the catalog as a licenciado, I would say, right? It is considered in Argentina a postgraduate degree for those professionals of the English language that have already got a tertiary level degree. Those professionals that have, let's say, developed their own studies at university have the possibility of developing a licentiate, I would say, career as a graduate career. This means that for university studies, it's a graduate degree. For those who bring a teacher degree from a teaching training college, would be something, as Claudio mentioned, that is a postgraduate degree. So this is something important to consider, because it has to do with the context, right, from which you have developed your initial education. If you are a teacher that has been graduated from a teacher training college, you get the degree of teacher, of a professor. And then if you would like to become a licenciado, you would like to attend university as a postgraduate degree. If you are a teacher that is got the degree from the university with 5 years of study, and you would like to become a licentiate, that would be another, let's say, graduate degree that you would get if you are interested in doing research.
All right, and a question
So
that
would be something important, right? Considering universities, because all along the country, and this is something related to what Ron mentioned at the very beginning, all along the country, there are two main types of institutions that develop the initial education for teachers of English. One type is teacher training colleges, in which the career, right, the degree is developed in 4 years all along the country, and is divided in 3 dimensions of studies. Just to round off your first question, one is related to the language, the speciality, the specificity of the language, right, and grammar and the development of the language command. The other is related to pedagogies and applied linguistics in terms of didactics and all that. And the third dimension is practicum. So teachers of English have practicum from first year. I mean, the relationship with the institutions, with the context, with formal and informal context of teaching and all that. In terms of universities, and there I would like to make this division of universities, because, I mean, as we mentioned, UNPAS it's a university with a new vision on teaching, and it's quite innovative in that. But there are very traditional universities in Argentina, like UBA, I would say, or that is the University of Buenos Aires, or the University of Cordoba, that are I would say the oldest universities, right? That are quite different from the new century universities that have been let's say run in these years. They have a different vision of that, and there, right, in university, the career, the degree is developed in 5 years. So there is a division there. That's why I would like just to make this correction, because, I mean, teachers or anybody who would like to become a teacher, whether in a teaching training college or at university, would go on a trajectory that would be between 4 and 6 years of development.
All right. All right.
With a strong development in pedagogy. Well, just complementing.
And I have a question, my dear friends and colleagues. How much money do you have to pay monthly? For example, at my university, in Peru, there are not many universities to study and to be a teacher of English, all right? But in my university, which is a private university, it's about $220 a month.
Maybe we can answer all together.
Yes.
Shall we?
Yes,
okay, go on.
1, 2, 3, It's free.
It's free.
Higher education in Argentina is free.
It's free.
No matter if it is private or public?
Postgraduate, no, state-run higher
State-run
education
universities.
is free. That is
All
why
right.
now postgraduate courses, as you mentioned, because again, I want to reinforce the necessary credentials to teach is to be a teacher, not a licenciado.
Right.
So then, if you want to become a licenciado, then yes, maybe Claudio knows better about how much it may cost, but it's not what is necessary for your teaching credential.
All right.
But Jaime, here we have the same thing. Education, if you want to study education in a public university, is free. It's
No,
the
but I
same
was
thing.
asking about private
Private institutions. That's different. Yeah,
institutions.
but
All
private universities, you have to pay for the career, don't you? Yeah. it's the
Yes,
same
yes.
thing.
We've
the same
got
thing.
private run universities as well.
And what
And
is the
well-
average payment?
Mm,
No idea.
no idea, because I
Not
mean,
particularly
the
if it's
option-
like a salary, no?
Hmm.
I
Like,
think so.
Like-
30,000 Argentine pesos, I think.
That would be in dollars. Sorry, the question.
depending on the day, depending on the hour.
You're
Okay,
right.
okay,
You're right.
I get
Depending
it,
on the
I get
day.
it. Let's
Okay.
not talk about let's not talk about politics then.
Depending on the private university.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's a-
Something that is also important to say is that it is not that we don't have that information on purpose, but it is important to consider that the possibilities that anybody in Argentina who would like to study to become a teacher of English has, in terms of choices and varieties, are much more in the public sector than in the
Yeah.
private sector. And
Yeah.
in most of the cases, the courses of studies are more developed and better equipped and more strategically oriented to the development of mandatory education in the state-run sector than in the private sector. That's why I mean, we don't have information that is so accurate in that term.
Maybe that's the main difference, Jaime, here. I think Peru is the other side of the coin.
Yeah,
Is,
that's why.
yeah,
That's
maybe
why
that's why.
That's why we are going to have our first international conference of all the English teachers. I hope, Arturo, if you organize it here down in Cusco, it could be.
Yeah, I was
It would be a good place.
Eugenia later if it was easy to get FAPI to be run, no?
Let's dream. Let's dream.
Okay, could be. Why
Yeah,
not?
why
Let's think
not?
about that.
Yeah,
think
why
about
not?
that.
Okay, and the last question, and then we will have time for another round of questions and comments, is what are the English Teachers Associations being in existence in Argentina, and how productive are they? I don't know who wants to speak first. Second?
I would like to ask you, Jaime, about what do you mean by productive?
Good question. I feel embarrassed. Anything that you understand by positive, like
I can tell you. I can
Okay,
tell you
tell
some
me.
things about the association, or you
All
know,
right.
well, we will be
Go on.
sharing another panel soon in terms of teachers associations. In Argentina, there is not an association, but a different figure that is called a federation. That is, right, an institution that frames and coordinates the associations of the different regions in Argentina in terms of teachers of English as a foreign language. I just jot down some ideas related to what, in my opinion, the situation of federation of FAPI and in Argentina is going through. We are in a moment in which there is a need for a change in the development of the concept of this productivity in terms of the associations. We need to reconstruct that concept of teacher association, or the goals of teachers association. Something that, in my opinion, should be happening quite soon is not only that teachers get together to have a course for development in professional development. That is one part of the issue. But just to focus on why is it that we teach English and what do we teach English for? Not only for the command of the language of others, and I think that some of the colleagues here mentioned that English is not only to learn about the language, but also to learn about cultures, not only that culture, but cultures in general terms. I loved saying that learning a language is not learning a code, it's learning the way in which a society sees the world. So understanding that includes all of us, and teachers' associations cannot be away from that. This means every single association has something else apart from the development, the courses for professional development to offer, just to develop their own cultures, their own specific issues of the region, the concerns, the challenges, and also the achievement of the area. In this case, let's say currently, I would say that FAPI in this case works very strongly to expand and to widen the scope to provide different, let's say, situations of learning and teachings and different spaces for teachers of different contexts to feel represented. Not only in the Congress, the International Congress that we organize in September, but also throughout different activities to support the associations with, let's say, specific situations that they all go through. And also, as you, Jaime, mentioned at the very beginning, right, just to see the world of English, in this case, as a foreign language, from this part of the world, right? With all our cultural and intentions and realities, and also to stand up our voices to say something in English, right? So we are in this process. I also would like to say that for the first time, Argentina is undergoing a situation in relation to English as a foreign language that has never been before. That is that the state, the national state, for the first time is recognizing English as a foreign language at different levels, right? And is asking the associations, the universities, and the teaching training college to socialize the teaching of English at different levels. For example, the Ministry of Education, the National Ministry of Education, has asked universities, teacher training colleges, and associations to collaborate in the development of online courses for all students, right? Students at secondary school or students at university that would like to learn English, even though they don't study to become teachers of English, for free. And nowadays, this program is being run all over the country. Last year, in the opening of the conference of FAPI conference that was online because of the COVID pandemic, it was the director of Infod, that is the national, let's say, the national institution that coordinates teacher training colleges all over the country. Let's say, the person that opened the conference. And so it's little by little in the world that is not the world of ELT, it's the world of pedagogy, the world of education in Argentina. They are making room for teachers of English, not only to develop by themselves in let's say, groups of specific areas of knowledge. So there is some recognitions. And well, teachers associations are trying to take advantage of that and widening the scope to work with policymakers, to provide, let's say, an opinion over there, and because it is the first time that we are being asked. So I would say that would be like the situation, in my opinion. Of course, you are all free to
No,
to
thank
add
you so
to that.
much. Thank you so much for such a illustrative way of explaining what's going on with associations. And I was thinking about what I meant with productive. I guess Arturo, Arturo will talk about a little bit about that a little bit later in the round of questions and comments. But I meant that if they are doing what the members of the associations are expecting from them, just like you
Yeah,
just mentioned. Okay,
I would say,
sorry,
Jaime,
sorry.
just to finish that, I'm not sure whether we are doing what the members expect. Really, I'm not sure about that. We are trying to cater for all and to consider that teachers' associations are not only for researchers on the language and for specialists, but for teachers at primary level, at secondary level, at university level, and teachers at different modalities as well, for rural teachers, for teachers who articulate in different contexts of teaching and learning. And this is something that not only associations, but also all our colleagues need to learn as well, I believe.
Yeah, well said, my dear friend. Okay, somebody else from Argentina who wants to complete the idea of the fourth question.
I just want to add something to what Eugenia was saying related to providing courses of language, not only of English, but also other languages. We have, Ministerio de Educación has these becas Progresar, and it is not only English, but it is also German, French, Chinese, Italian, and Portuguese.
Okay. I was going to get some water. I'm so sorry. And
No,
I
it's
didn't
okay.
know that.
If you want to, I just want to add something, because this is also important in Argentina in terms of the plurilingual approach, I mean, or policy. We are in a moment in which we want, I mean, we need to stress the importance of all second or additional languages as part of the development of students, and not only English. I think one of the important things is that we want to, and we ask associations to be together and to discuss, which is something that at university level, in higher education, this is working. Have I given you enough time for your water?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, perfect. So, but in higher education, this is working well because because of the policy of internationalization of higher education, then there is a bit more of dialogue. And because most universities or some universities have language schools that depend on the university, as you do have in Piura, which is you have your beautiful one. So this is another tension that is present in our reality, right? It's not only English, and not only the Association of Teachers of English, but also this dialogue between associations and associations depending on related to different languages, and in some cases when languages are minority or who need more development, the contact with embassies, right?
Okay, thank you, Marina. I don't know if Marina Surace or Maria del Valle want to say something, add something that they haven't mentioned.
No, I'm
Okay.
afraid I cannot contribute to this issue.
Okay, so now we have time for the people who are here in the audience who want to make a comment or a question to our 5 guest speakers from Argentina. Okay, who wants to start? Yeah, go on. Please try to be brief to everyone so we have time, so everybody has time to speak. Okay, go on, Ron.
You asked the question about, what are associations doing on the local level here, national level, Argentina. But I didn't hear about what is TESOL doing, what is IOTEFL doing, because when you talk about local things like personal learning networks, that's a little bit different. Now, if we look at it from the TESOL perspective, that's very American. So they're going to have American ideas, and they use the word global English because they want to be inclusive in their approaches. And we already know that IATEFL is going to promote British English. We know that because the British Council is the biggest supporter of them, and they also own the test which we give, and they're involved in Cambridge. So they promote all of that British stuff. But the thing here is culture. That word came out. When we're speaking and teaching English, what culture are we teaching? Are we teaching American culture, British culture? Because, you know, I have to say, you know, I'm a very proud Latino, okay? I like my culture, okay? And I'm not gonna, you know, just because English is my mother language doesn't mean, you know, that I'm just an American, because I'm not, okay? I have another culture. I have my Spanish culture, I have my German culture. I speak those languages fluently, and with that comes culture. So what are we teaching them? Are we teaching them British English, and we're going to talk about the Queen of England when they can't even talk about their local economies or geography and stuff? This is why I get so angry at teachers. Why are you teaching those students about the Queen of England? They're Argentinians. They need to be learning about their country first and speaking about their country. This is what I do with my students. I tell them, you know, I share my culture with them because I'm proud of it. Share yours, you know. I live in Germany, we have Turkish people, Russians, French, everybody's sharing their culture. And we have a lot of different religions as well, too. I'm Jewish, and so of course, I share my Jewish religion with them, but they share their religions with me. This is exchange of culture. This is building citizenship. Or are we just teaching them to be little Americans or little British people? That's not going to help them.
Thank you. I agree with you, dear Ron. And I repeat, you should be one of our guest speakers next year if you want to, and you have some time, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that we can invite Ron to the presentation of my pago, shouldn't we?
Of course.
Yeah, well, you know, I always
think
talk
so.
about, and you know, there's a woman.
I think so.
This thing here about, you know, English lingua franca. I can speak English. English is my mother language, but I've learned to accept it as a lingua franca. It's the language of communication between people who are non-natives. And accepting that that's a different kind of English. It's not that English that I'm preparing them for to pass the Cambridge exam, because in the end, somebody mentioned here, you know, we're not English teachers, we're communication teachers. Well, I have to disagree with that a little bit because we are language teachers. We do teach from a linguistic perspective. We have to teach grammar, mechanics, but we have to integrate communications as well and accept that it's not American English, it's not British English. No. It's a global language that we all own. It's not American, it's not British. And that is just an attitude you sort of got to take in the classroom, because people do ask me, what English am I learning from you?
Thank you, dear Ron. We have 5 more minutes because Eugenia has to leave. So go on, Arturo, please, briefly, your question or comment.
No, it's just going to be a brief comment. I think, Eugenia, what you mentioned is, I think that maybe our members are looking for other things, not only training. I think that what we are lacking, and maybe the pandemic taught us that, is that, for example, many of our teachers didn't have a laptop. They barely had a smartphone or something through which they had to teach. A lot of them were not in the payroll. A lot of them did not belong to a formal institution, and they had a real bad time at the pandemic. They had no real good connection to internet and many others that you know and everybody knows. So maybe what we need to do is help them, is that there should be a minimum standard in what a teacher should have in order to do a good job. That's one thing. And a little other thing maybe is that, as you said, our voice has to be heard, but at the levels of the government, of Congress. And another thing is just a little comment. Be careful not to believe it in everything the government says. We have already gone through that path, and Humala gave us a lot of beautiful things that today maybe are back to zero, or maybe a little bit less than zero. So be
Yeah.
careful with that. And just as a little comment. Okay.
Thank you, Arturo. We
You're
have time
welcome.
for one more question or comment. Raj, I guess you want to say
But
something.
maybe could, okay,
of course,
so that we
Marina,
can
Marina.
answer. No, because I think that these topics are really interesting, and do we have time to give a very brief answer?
Go on, Marina, don't worry.
Two things. Thanks, Arturo, for what you mentioned. We do know, but we also have the responsibility of working together with the government when there is an opening. And we know, we are conscious that this may continue or not, but in the moment in which it exists, we have to support it. The other thing that I owed you the answer is, remember that we have mandatory English, so nobody studies only 5 years in when they become to become a teacher. You told me that 5 years were not enough for a teacher to know English, but they have been studying since their primary school, so they already have. Okay, they have a history of 12 or 15 years. Probably the first 7 were in a different format, but then they add those 5 in training. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that,
Okay.
Marina. Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's okay.
To Ron, many of us take part in IATEFL from our non-native perspective. Okay, you know, I'm in the POPSCOM, I'm in the LAMSEG committee, Euge is in the literature committee. We have Gabriel, all right, who's not Argentina, but it's the other side of the country. So we do take a big key in the technology, all right? So we do have try to have a strong presence in the international field, speaking our voice in terms of what you say. And I probably Eugenia is going to, we are presenting a project called My Pago. And I think that if you will be happy to know about it. The same happens with the materials that we prepare for our students who start with the Ciclo Preparatorio de Inglés when they start the teacher education program. And this is mostly Latin American materials. So if you want, we can share them with you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Please, Raj.
I think someone else has their hand up. I didn't quite catch.
Don't worry, Raj. Go.
Okay,
You are the president.
thank
You
you.
are the president.
Thank you, everyone. I think it was a very informative and engaging session. I think there are so many things to address. Something that I would like to share is I'm a professional coach and trainer as well as a facilitator. And I loved the idea that there is an inner journey that the teachers need to take. There needs to be an inner evolution, and not that talking about, I think you said that, Marina, about not just becoming versus acquiring. You know, it's who am I being, not just what am I doing. I mean, because teachers are educators as well. So I think those were important points that are made, and I really value the contributions that teachers make in the world because they help us communicate. And there's so much more I could say, but I think I'll close here by gratitude for all of you for your perspectives and your continued support for people to learn how to communicate and be human beings as well at the same time.
Thank you, dear Raj. And before Luis Bermudez speaks, Luis from Ecuador, I would like to give you, Eugenia Carrion, because you have to leave in a few minutes, the chance of saying something, your final message to all of us, and then we will continue.
Of course. Sorry about this, and thank you for this opportunity. I think that is very enriching, this spaces that we've got of reflection and sharing information about the realities of varieties of contexts. I would think that, I mean, something important, at least for me in this region, is to establish, right, this collaborative network of professionals who share visions, and also that we learn from one another, right? I think this is very important. It is very strong wave of teachers of English as foreign language, as an additional language, that share this vision that English should transcend the development of skills and should help all of us, right, to not only to learn about others, but to learn about ourselves. Most of the community that speaks English are not natives of English. So it is high time that we acknowledge that our culture and what we can do with English, what we can learn from English, and what we can provide to English, right? In terms of culture, in terms of language, in terms of research, and to, as Marina mentioned before, and I think that Ron as well, to share, right, and to acknowledge the regional professionals on English as a foreign or an additional language. We are all unique, and I think that all of us have something to say and to contribute with. So thank you very much. I'm so sorry I have another issue right now. And well, I'm sure I would love to go on here talking to all of you, but well, you know, responsibilities and family is always first as well.
Of course. Thank you so much, dear
Bye-bye.
Ovinia Carrion. Have a good Sunday. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, Luis Bermudez, back to you with your question or comment. Please try to be brief so other people can have time to speak.
Of course. Thank you very much. I was very pleased to hear all of your interventions. One of the things that I am concerned with is when we teach English, are we using that English in a way that we can integrate it with our traditions, with who we are, as for example, in our case, the Ecuadorians. Is that something that you do over Argentina, or you, I mean, you just try to give a much more general approach to the whole thing? I don't know if I was clear.
Yeah, it was a question, Luis.
Yes, of course. I mean, are you considering, I mean, your own culture, your own traditions when you teach English? I mean,
okay. The four guest speakers who remain here, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, of course.
Marina.
Well, at our university, we are considering our culture, yes. And I think that's considered a very new approach, because that's not the case in other universities and teacher training colleges. In fact, what I studied 20 years ago, that was not considered at all. We should focus on British culture, and it was a very Eurocentric approach. And this is not happening right now, at least in our university, the one we share with Claudia and Marina, because we consider our own culture defines us, and our culture and who we are will speak about us as teachers first and educators, and then as teachers of English. So I think our own culture, whatever we are talking about, all countries, should come first, and we should hug and embrace our culture first.
Thank you, Marina.
Okay.
Yeah, please, Maria.
You know, in a primary and secondary school, we have a curriculum that consider what to teach, what we have to teach, how we have to teach, in this case, English, and how to evaluate. Remember, I told you that a lot of students fail to pass their exams at primary and especially at secondary schools. And in my opinion, that has to do with the fact that we teachers pay attention to what students don't know instead of paying attention of what they really know. And especially about our culture. At secondary school, we are paying much attention to the British culture maybe, or the grammar, and we lack these or to pay attention to our culture. As Marina said, at university is the other way around, okay? And from the UNPAS, the University of Jose C. Paz, we are starting talking to teachers of secondary schools, and we are trying to work to achieve that goal, that is to include our culture in our teaching classes at secondary schools, at primary schools too.
Okay, thank you so much. So before we go to the wrapping up and finishing our beautiful round table, I would like to invite people from, I don't know who they are from or where they are from, like Silvia Cueto, María Lourdes Bernachea, Anabela Suar Rosas, Julisa B, María Teresa Terán, María Marta Mora, David Talavera, oh, hello, María Elba Zambrana in Bolivia. Anybody, or Roxy, or Marco Antonio, or Fillmore, our good friend from the Philippines, if you would like to say something briefly and go to the final messages of our guest speakers. Hello, Maria Teresa. Okay, anybody who wants to say something? Hello.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I think all the information given is related to all the aspects that we go through in our teaching process. At the same time, I would say that while we teach, we are learning as well. And when you were mentioning different aspects related to culture and different aspects relating to providing instruction or education, I think we are all concerned about what we are in our own culture and trying to provide. And it's enriching to have information related to what happens in other cultures, in other countries, because we can compare the things that we have, and comparing give us the opportunity to open our minds as well, to understand different kinds of behavior, different kinds of customs that people have around the world. And these meetings that we have on Sundays, I think, are providing us the opportunity to learn more about people who are engaged in the teaching process. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you, dear Maria Teresa in Bolivia. Roxana in Peru.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Nice to be back. Yes, I feel very pleased to listen that some things that have happened or are happening in Argentina are quite similar in Peru, others not that much. So we have many things common in Latin. So it means that, for example, the public schools, they have a higher and strong support from the government that does not happen in Peru. That makes me feel pleased that at least you guys in Argentina have that situation. Probably one day our country will reach that level. I also listen about PISA. In Peru, PISA just only considers math and mathematics and reading comprehension in Spanish. I would like that one day English will be considered in that exam too. So I think the government will give more importance to the languages, second languages, or English as well. I could understand very clear about being an educator and a teacher and instructor. We are not instructors, we are educators, which means it's a whole. We play as teachers, we play many roles, and in the part of our education, we have learned to be psychologists, we have learned to be teachers themselves by the word. And when we are teaching at schools, universities, or language centers, we have to think that we are not just giving the language per se for only learning the language, but for communicating, as Isabel said, teaching the language for communication. That's the main purpose. Now, something else that has been mentioned is about training. We have, I think most of us, we have been educated about the teaching process like 2 decades ago, but we have to be retrained, right? From this way of teaching online, ways of teaching for different purposes, or teaching for other levels of education. We have to be retrained constantly, and we have to be adapted, and we have to teach to the individual. With personalization, it's quite important, even though we are working with large groups. And then the word culture. For me, the word culture teaching English is a little bit different to the things that have been commented here. I teach the culture of the language. I contrast and compare how Spanish works and how different and similar is English. That's the culture I teach. And not only, it's not teaching history, it's not teaching geography of the language, I'm teaching the culture of the language, which is, I understood in a different way that you guys have mentioned here. It's like, for example, why we know, for example, the Spanish adjective come in a different position, or adjective have the plural forms, whether contrary and contrasting to the English is different, have a different word order, they have no pluralized words. That's the culture I teach. I don't know if I'm making myself understood, but I just wanted to share those things, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this community. And as we know, okay, English is an international language. In the past, we used the English from the United States English from the United Kingdom. Now it's international, because what about the English talk in Australia, in Canada? They have to be involved as well. If my students, I teach in a business center, but if my students are interested in traveling to Australia, I will start talking about Australia, the kind of culture, the outbacks, and the different areas. It will depend. So that is the personalization of the language while we are teaching. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, dear Roxy, and your words remind me of this question my students always ask me. Teacher, are we learning British English or American English? And the book we use has a mixture of both. It combines English from the United States and English from England. But I tell them, well, you are learning Peruvian English because I was born in Peru. My accent is Peruvian. My personality and my physical appearance is Peruvian. So they are learning culture through me. So I make sure that they not only learn the language, but also culture. And as everybody said, it's a means of communication. Okay, I want to thank.
Can I just jump in and say something here about what Roxana said?
My dear
Sure.
Ron, may I finish and then let you? Okay, I want to thank the 5 guest speakers, all the people connected in Facebook Live, and you, Ron, and all the people who have actively participated and collaborated with us, because I feel that is a big privilege for me to be listening to so many professionals, wonderful human beings, and learning so much. I repeat, all the videos are in our YouTube channel. So if you want to check and learn, because some people are using them for their thesis, for their classes, and that's beautiful. Thank you, Ron. Go back to you.
I just want to say something, Roxana. Roxana, don't forget that Spanish is also an international language. And many of us here in this group speak Spanish, but we don't all speak the same Spanish. We all speak difference in Spanish, yeah? So, you know, and English is the same way too. So, you know, languages come with their cultures and subcultures. Yeah, yes. We got to think about that as well too. And I want to thank everybody. I finally found a group that I think I can be a part of.
you see, but you didn't answer my proposal, my dear. I said that you could be one of our guest speakers next year, but you said nothing yet.
Well, do I have to speak in English or Spanish?
Whatever. Okay, fine. Thank you so much, everyone, please, for being here, and your final message to all the audience and the future generations and the generations of the future generations, please, dear Maria del Valle.
Yes, someone asked in the chat, what is your UNPAS? UNPAS stands for Universidad Nacional de José C. Paz. José C. Paz is the city in the north area of Buenos Aires.
Okay, your final message, my dear.
Sorry?
Your final words to all the generations in this presentation today.
Well, I'm very glad. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. So thank you for inviting me. And I would like to participate in another opportunity if you want me to.
And if it is face-to-face here in Peru, that would be wonderful. Ask Marina, she's been to Piura and she can tell you about the food, the weather, the people, that culture. Marina Surace.
Well, my message is respect your culture first. Embrace it.
Thank you, Marina.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marina. Claudio.
Well, okay, I think that Marina has given the perfect closure. I just want to thank you for letting us be here, and to Marina Gonzalez as well, because she thought of Marina Surace, Maria Juri, Eugenia, and me to be here in order to provide something about education in Argentina, how to teach English. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much, Jaime, for this opportunity.
Thank you all, because it's a Sunday and it's lunchtime in Argentina. I know. So thank you for your time. And finally, my dear friend, Marina Gonzalez.
You know, I was, thanks for everything. I was, you said the message for future generations, right? And being able to share this moment with my dear colleagues is, to me, is a message to future generations, because they are younger, because they are thriving, because they are intelligent, and they want to build for a better future, knowing that what we have been able to construct in this specific university, which is not a central university in the history of universities in Argentina, but a small one in a poor area, is a way of building future. So I am very proud to be able to share with them. And I know that I can retire and I can travel and visit Peru, Ecuador, etc., because I know that they will be able to be doing a number of things without me by their side. No, but I do think that the message is this one is, you don't need to be in the center of things to build new possible realities. What you need is to grasp the opportunity and to find people who want to grow and who can add to the project, because we know that what we have been sharing, and we've been clear about this, is one part of the various realities in Argentina. So a pleasure as always.
That's true. No, the pleasure was ours, dear Marina. So thank you, Maria Juri, Marina Surace, Claudio Hernan, Roxana Tenorio, Arturo Phil, Raj Gil, Fillmore Murillo, Marco Antonio, Ron Moraine, Luis Bermúdez, Marina González, María Elba, María Teresa, David Talavera, Isabel Taja, Julissa Pi, Anabela Sol Rosas, Rina Pamela Chalco, Mariela Marta Mora, Silvia Cuello, who is just connecting now, and Veronica Petrola, and all the people who have been listening to us and watching us in Facebook Live. Have a beautiful Sunday. Enjoy life and see you next Sunday. Don't go, and see you next Sunday with our wonderful friend, Mónica Rodriguez Salvo from Argentina too, who will be talking about educational coaching, humanizing approach to ELT. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you once again, and see you next Sunday.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Jaime. Thank you, all of you.
All of you too. Thank you.
Blessings to all of you.
Bye-bye.